My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Why don't more infant formula companies use organic, grass-fed whole milk instead of skim? Why don't more infant formula companies use the latest breast milk science? Why don't more infant formula companies run their own clinical trials? Why don't more infant formula companies use more of the proteins found in breast milk? Why don't more infant formula companies have their own factories instead of outsourcing their manufacturing? We wondered the same thing. So we made ByHeart, an infant formula company on a mission to get a lot closer to the most superfood on the planet, breast milk. Our patented protein blend has more of the important and most abundant proteins actually found in breast milk. We're the first and only U.S.-made formula to use organic, grass-fed whole milk, not skim. We even conducted the largest clinical trial by a new infant formula company in a quarter century, with clinically proven benefits like easier digestion, less spit up, and softer poops versus a leading infant formula. And we make our own formula in the USA and our very own factories in Iowa, Oregon, and Pennsylvania. ByHeart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice.
It started.
Oh, hey, y'all. Sorry. It didn't come up on the screen and say that it started this time. Sorry about
It was
that.
10 seconds in. Y'all got an intro of us doing nothing.
Right. Radio silence.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. What you know, Fruit Loop?
I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know today. I ain't gonna say nothing about the weather because I always say about the weather.
It is a little chillier. You know, it's the time in the South where you dress like it's winter in the morning, and by the afternoon, you're shedding the layers.
Yeah, we woke up. It was like 63 degrees in the house. I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
no.
Well, my kids put it down to like 62. You know how they are. It's like,
Mason. Yeah.
It's freezing in here. So we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Two Cool T-shirt Quilts, and I'm really excited because a lot of our listeners have reached out and said that they are starting to order.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Go to twocooltshirtquilts.com/Pretty Lies and Alibis. Check her out. Christmas is coming. Get some gifts.
Yep.
So I want to give a big thank you to Jesse Weber and Kathy Russin and Law and Crime Network for having me on Friday night. We did an hour-and-a-half question and answer only about Lori and Chad, and it was super, super fun.
Yeah, it was cool. I watched it. It was good.
Yeah, we had a really good time. It was just a really good conversation, and they said, they'd love to have me back. So I'm really excited about that. And a big thank you to Diane and Leah for the PayPal donations.
Yeah.
That helps, y'all. It costs money to put this on, especially you think about it. Cause like Sunday, I sat in this room for 12 hours going through that stuff. It's just, and I'm not even halfway through.
Yep.
Not even halfway through.
Yeah.
You wanted to say thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's late, y'all.
Oh, it's late. My brain is like foggy.
If we go past 8 o'clock, because we're in our 40s now, it's bedtime.
Yeah. So I got a couple of cards in the mail and wanted to say thank you for those.
Yeah. Rosemary and Debbie sent you some cards.
Yeah, I couldn't think. The name just left me because I don't have it wrote down.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. My aunt is actually, her name is Rosemary, so.
That's such a pretty name.
Yeah.
Very pretty name. So I have to give a local shout out, and I'm not getting paid for this, but Open Hearth is a restaurant here in Greenville. And we just found out about 2 weeks ago that my dad's brother has cancer and he's terminal. And he goes there to eat sometimes. And when they heard they said, hey, bring 25 of your friends and family, and we're just going to pay for everything. It was like steak, salad, and they had staff just in a private room. So I just want to give a shout out because it's easy to complain about the bad service we get. And, there are times where people step up and do things that are unexpected and really special. So we just want to thank them. If you're in Greenville, please go check them out because clearly
I heard it's really good. Yeah. I heard it's really good food there.
It's great food. And the
I've
people
never
are
been.
nice. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Our website is back up and running. It's not quite there yet, but we've kind of got the basics down. We have some plans to put videos up. We're going to start putting documents up on our page so that you guys can read along if you want. And also, I'm working on the merchandise site. It is making me lose my religion, but we're going to get there.
Yep.
So I have to tell you guys a quick story about Sherlock. So the picture I posted on social media of the bat right before it got in my face?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Sherlock and this bat are BFFs. So
it is a black cat.
I know, right? So every night at dusk, Sherlock goes and lays right in the middle of the yard, and this bat swoops, but not aggressively, and then he'll hover. And Sherlock
that bat don't bite him or something.
Dude, I know. I tried to keep him inside because rabies, hello. But no, he whines and he just goes and sits in the yard, and the bat will like hover and Sherlock will try to pat. It's really cute. I mean, it's cute until he gets bit, but
yeah,
I can't keep this cat in.
No, but I'm telling you, but I hope that thing ain't rabbit or something. Ew.
I know. So we started off last week when we did our last episode, we were doing more of a timeline. But as I've gotten into this stuff, I have found that reading the police reports or the police interviews rather with like Melanie Gibb, Zulema, Jason Mao, all those guys, it sort of gives a little better context when you're going through those dates because now you know their stance on it and you know what they were. I'm just going to say this. Everybody tried to save face with these police because they were drinking the Kool-Aid. They were funneling it. I mean, just straight down. None of these guys were on to Lori and Chad like they kind of say.
Yeah. Yeah. They were just, I don't know.
I mean, I think after a little time passed and this blew up in the media like it did, they realized that they look like morons. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know the people, and I get it. Like, they don't know them. Like, we know them now.
Right.
Like, we know who they are and what they've done, but I guess going into it, I don't know. They said it was weird. I think on one of the first episodes of one of the shows, they said that the interview was one of the weirdest they had or whatever.
Yeah, well, you just really get a sense of everybody that I've read so far, they kind of want to backtrack and make it seem like they really weren't that into it, but they were. So we're going to do Melanie Gibb's interview today.
Yep.
We're going to start with her. So you go ahead, Fruit Loop.
So she says she met Lori while she was teaching an event in Mesa, Arizona on October 4, 2018, but they had spoken over the phone before meeting in person. She says Lori had met Jason Mao first, and he was the one to introduce them. And I think I remember that talk on one of those podcasts they did that he thought they would get along well or something, that they were a lot alike. But so she says Lori had met, sorry, I just said that one. So October 26, 2018, Lori and Melanie, they drive to St. George, Utah. Sorry, guys, my sensor's going crazy. With 3 other friends to an event Chad was speaking at. Jason Mao also spoke. Melanie knew Chad prior to this trip, but Lori only knew him through his books. Been there. I know him through his book too.
Yeah. If you guys are new to the show, I made Fruit Loop read one of Chad's books back when we were sort of researching who these people were. And
yeah, it was that biography. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So investigators played the audio clip found on Lori's phone of Chad's speech on November 16th. Chad thanks Thor at the beginning, and Melanie Gibb says this is the second time she had met Chad in person.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I'm not up on a lot of religious people, so I had to Google if Thor was in the Bible. Not like the Bible, but like I didn't know if he was significant. It's just the Marvel dude,
That's who
right?
he thanked?
I guess because I didn't see any reference to Thor like in the Book of Mormon. So I don't know. I mean, look, I'm the last person you want to ask religious questions to. I don't know.
I have no clue. I
I
mean,
think
I've seen Thor in the Marvel movies, but is it Marvel?
Yeah, I didn't find him in the Book of Mormon, so I'm assuming it's Thor. Why would he think
Okay,
Thor?
people who listen to Marvel and watch Marvel and stuff, don't kill us, but I know he's in, like, he's got a big hammer. I know who Thor is.
Oh, yeah. I watched all those with my son.
Yeah.
I like Doctor Strange because I think Benedict Cumberbatch is he's pretty cute.
So don't yell at us if we mess that up, because Marvel and different things are different. Yeah. So, anyways, investigators tell Melanie that Lori had a phone number stored in her phone for her and gives the last 4 digits. Melanie says she had this number for years prior to knowing Lori.
So investigators say they have the same number listed as Melanie on one iCloud account, but they also have the same number listed as Phoebe on another iCloud account. And Melanie said she was aware of the nickname given to her. And Lori said the reason for this is that Melanie Gibb was a daughter of hers in a past life, and her name was Phoebe.
Phoebe, like our friends.
Smelly cat. The investigator plays Lori's testimony that she recorded in 2018 on her iPhone. And Melanie said this was recorded at her house during one of those classes that she shared with the group. And they played the portion where Lori talks about the abuse, and I put it in air quotes, from Joe Ryan, and how scripture says you can kill someone if they come at you 3 times. So when asked what scripture Lori was referring to, Melanie said she thought it was from Doctrine and Covenants, section 98. So I looked it up, and it says, okay, if my house spontaneously combusts, I'm sorry, I'm reading scripture. And then if thou wilt spare him, and thou shalt be rewarded for thy righteousness, and also thy children and thy children's children unto the 3rd and 4th generation. Nevertheless, thine enemy is in thine hands, and if thou rewardest him according to his works, thou art justified. If he has sought thy life, and thy life is endangered by him, thine enemy is in the hands, and thou art justified. But see, Lori forgot to read part that says, and I give unto you a commandment that ye shall forsake all evil and cleave unto all good, and ye shall live by every word which proceedeth forth out of the mouth of God. Not the mouth of Chad.
And we know that's where she's been.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
One thing that we're going to get into as we explore all of these documents, there's a lot of moments where my mouth fell open. And one thing that we learned from this document dump is the morning that Charles was murdered, Lori and Chad were texting starting at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as Lori leaves the house, probably before she even gets really out of the driveway, she calls Melanie Pulaski. Alex calls twice in between before he even calls 911. It's just, there's so many little nuggets in this stuff.
Yeah.
These are going to be some really revealing episodes we have coming up.
Yep. So a clip is played where Lori says she doesn't have a murderous heart and wanted the pain to stop. She talked about getting her temple recommend and turning her life to the temple, or she was going to commit murder. When asked about July 9th, 2019, this is the night Melanie spent the night with Lori. Melanie said she was invited to stay by Lori because Melanie, so we're assuming Melanie Pulaski, right?
No, this is Melanie Gibb.
So this is Melanie Gibb. Gotcha. When I read the first time, I was like, is she talking about Melanie Pulaski?
It's Melanie with an E, not Melanie's.
Gotcha. My bad. So Melanie was divorcing her husband at the time. The next morning, Lori told her she had to leave because Charles was coming into town to kill her. Even though Charles called and said, I'm taking JJ to school.
All right.
Yeah. Melanie asked why Charles wanted to kill her, and she says Charles, Brandon, and Lori's dad were after her $3 million life insurance policy. She said they were dark spirits and zombies and wanted her money. Everything she says is what she's doing.
She is a professional victim and gaslighter.
Yeah. Like everything she says, she was trying to kill Charles for his money.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's so frustrating.
Mhm.
So Melanie says she learned of Charles's murder about 5 days after it happened. She visited Lori at her house. Lori asked if she saw the news, and Melanie said she didn't watch the news. And she then told Melanie that Alex shot Charles. So Lori says she was buckling. This is good. So Lori says she was buckling JJ into Charles's car, and she saw his phone between the seats. And a spirit told her to take his phone. She took it, went inside, and Charles started freaking out, asking for his phone back, saying he was enraged, at which time Tylee came out with a bat, and Alex and Charles began to fight. Melanie can't remember who, but either Lori or Alex told her that Charles had the strength of 1,000 men and was told Alex had a prompting to go get his gun. He came out and shot Charles. She said Lori did mention Charles hitting Alex with a bat, but couldn't remember details.
And we're going to hear this version pretty much with every person that's interviewed. It doesn't stray very much. Sometimes it does. Sometimes there are little things that are not quite, fluid between stories. And you're going to get kind of tired of hearing the setup, but there are some subtle differences that, just like one thing that I found is Lori said that when the shooting happened, her and Tylee ran out with no shoes, except when Lori seen coming into Walgreens, she's got shoes on.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's not a big lie, but it's just,
it's details.
Right. And that's where people get caught is in the little bitty details, not the big ones.
Yep.
I still think all those little trips, I understand you got to feed JJ, but given the circumstances, I'm sure they could have given him some at school. I really do think after seeing all these phone calls, this was everybody getting their story aligned before Tylee and Lori came back to the house and had to talk to cops.
Yep.
So Melanie asked Lori if she looked at Charles's phone, and Lori said that Angels gave her the password in spite of the fact that Lori told the authorities her and Tylee both knew the code because he used it for everything. So she said there was evidence on the phone that Charles was cheating on her, and they discussed back in January of 2019 when Melanie came to the Gilbert PD, remember, with Lori and Tylee?
Mm-hmm.
Lori told Melanie that she knew how to deal with the police, and she told police that Charles was cheating on her, and this was essentially a domestic dispute. If you don't remember, he had taken her purse from the school.
Yep.
And so
she had taken his truck.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So she tells the officer she has proof when she's asked about the affair, and the officer didn't ask to see it, but she later told Melanie Gibb she had no proof. So Melanie said,
true. It was
no
lie.
Liabilities. So Melanie says, looking back, she realizes Lori was trying to make Charles the bad guy, and he wasn't. And the officer asked when Melanie first heard the name Ned Schneider, and she says January of 2019. Now, here's what's interesting. Chad first searched for Ned Schneider on January 30th, which I think is the same day that Lori, that's when all that started. I don't want to be married. The same day that Chad's in Idaho Googling Ned Schneider. That's the day Lori realizes, I don't want to be married.
Yeah.
So she said that she was at Lori's house and she was on the phone with Chad. And when Lori got off the phone, she said that Chad informed her that Charles was now Ned Schneider. And what you're going to find throughout a lot of these documents is that I was told this person is a zombie. I was told that person is a zombie. Yeah. So Melanie said he also was the one that referred to Charles as Garrett. He had 3 other names, Garrett, Garrick, or Hiplos. And
it's actually Iplos, I think. I think the H
Iplos.
is silent.
That sounds very British. Iplos.
Yeah, Iplos. Yeah.
So Iplos was a combination of dark spirits, and Lori didn't come up with those names. I think Chad also had Googled Hiplos at some point. So Lori was told Ned Schneider was a childhood friend of Charles's who passed away, and his spirit attached to Charles for years and studied Charles's behaviors. So according to the Cuckoo Bunch, Ned eventually pushed Charles out and took over his body. When this happened, Charles's spirit moved on and Charles was gone.
Okay. So every time I read that sentence, I get the movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg, when she's sitting there and that guy comes into her body in that room and it's like, blah, 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 blah. You know that? That's where I go every time.
Oh my gosh, you're a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna start laughing. I got tickled at myself. I just keep seeing that image over and over in my head now. If y'all hadn't seen the movie Ghost, go watch it. Melanie says she knew all about the light dark scales. Chad invented the framework. Chad invented the framework for the system, and Lori loved telling people about it. The number stood for how many times you had been on Earth. Light dark referred to whether or not you had made a contract with God or a contract with the devil. She said there was also a trust scale which went from 0 to 100%, and Melanie was put as a 97% on that scale. She said Chad and Lori were always building her up and telling her how wonderful she was. Remember the phone call?
Love bombing.
Yeah, remember
it's very
when
powerful.
she called?
Yeah, but that's really powerful stuff for people that I think have a need to be accepted. Like I say, it seems like a lot of these people, and there wasn't a lot of these people, I don't think. They all seem misfit.
Yeah.
And then they found this common group.
Yeah. Somewhere here it lists who was all part of this group, and it's not many at all.
It's not. I mean, you count on maybe 2 hands, and then you'll find later that some people started coming to these little meetings, and then when it got real weird, they were like, I'm out. I'm good. Bye.
Exactly. Yeah. So Melanie also talked about the term vibrations, in which Chad would use a pendulum to check vibrations. If you reached a score of 1,000, you were translated. If your vibrations reached over 1,000, you could portal at some point. Increasing vibrations came from going to the temple. Boom. That's why Lori went to the temple so much.
Mm-hmm.
When I was reading that, I was like, that's why she went all the time.
Like 5 days a week.
This sounds like a Tetris game or something.
I was just, ever since I read that, I've had that Marky Mark song, Good Vibration, stuck in my head.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. But it sounds like a game. Like, okay, Bejeweled. Your score, you reached over 1,000 points. You can portal.
You're translated.
Exactly. So Chad and Lori would provide little bits of information at a time, and Melanie described it as a rope getting tighter and tighter, and the zombie references didn't come until later. When asked about zombies, Melanie referred to Ned. At first, they referred to Charles as Ned, saying he was an unclean spirit. At some point, the reference to the spirit became the term zombie.
They would also abbreviate it in text messages to the letter Z.
Melanie says at one point, Lori had a dream there was an earthquake in Utah and people fell into the earth. Lori thought if they could get rid of all the zombies in the world, they would not be able to get into dead bodies. Lori thought she had the power of the priesthood, and Chad told Lori she had these powers. This is so far away. This is beyond left field.
Yeah, beyond out to lunch.
Yeah, this is like sci-fi way. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, the bad thing, I think, is you have people who are LDS that follow the book, and yet they're having to answer questions about these knuckleheads because people just don't know at what point.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
LDS stops, and it's just not even in the same zip code.
Yeah.
You know, and I know
it's not fair to try to group them together.
Right. And I know a lot of people that are LDS, and at some point they've all kind of said, man, this case has really just made me answer a lot of really crazy questions that, yeah, it's really, it's just, man, I tell you, it's hard to believe anybody fell for this stuff, but I will tell you right now, and we talked about this on the live. I don't think Lori's crazy as far as when you cover up a crime, you know what you're doing is wrong. When you hesitate to let people have an intervention, you know it's because they're right. But at the same time, there was no text that I have seen between any of these people where they broke character. I really do think they had religious delusions.
Yeah.
I really do. And I'm not defending anybody. And I hope Chad and Lori go to prison for the rest of their life. But they bought into this stuff hardcore.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one time they took out a map and tried to find the number of zombies just in Arizona. And Lori said a number and then she said a prayer. So Chad would confirm their efforts, telling them they got rid of so many zombies during their prayer. And she said what would happen is through the prayer, these people would pass away. And when asked if these people were living beings, she used an example of a police station. She said they would first check to see how many zombies were there and they would say a prayer. And then Chad would get his little pendulum and they would come back with how many had died during that prayer. And she said the people would physically die. And I'm just sitting here thinking, do they not understand these people probably just bonded out of jail? The number dropped of the, yeah.
Like, this is like you can make all this up.
Dude, it's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like some out there sci-fi novel, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. But Melanie Gibb said, of course, there's no evidence the prayers work because people die every day. And then they talk about when Lori packed up Charles's clothes. If you remember, that's when the truck was taken and she took a box to Goodwill and the other one was put behind food storage at the house. And Melanie said she asked Lori if she was going a little overboard. And Lori said that Jesus told her this is what she had to do. And she said Alex took Charles's truck from the airport and had taken that truck to a hotel in Gilbert to hide it from him. So Melanie knew that Charles obviously took her purse at JJ's school, and Melanie texted Lori to see how she was doing. And Charles responded asking, how can I get my truck back? And so Melanie figured out that Charles had Lori's phone at that point. So Melanie went over to Lori's to find her. And when she got there, Charles was there with the locksmith. And Charles and Melanie had a conversation where Charles said he was worried about Lori. And he tells her that Lori says she's a translated being and she's married to Moroni. And Lori thought he was some guy named, at this point, she thought his name was Ted. Okay. Ted Ned. And Melanie says she really felt bad for Charles and he seemed like a sweet guy. But I don't buy that because Melanie was in it after Charles was murdered. And you know what's really enraging is the both of them, Melanie Gibb and Zulema both, knew what happened when somebody was declared a zombie. Now, here's the thing. When we get into Zulema's report, you remember on the last episode, we were talking about how they were doing this cheesy texting back and forth. I'm blinding him. I'm shooting him with fire. It's working. You're so powerful. And JJ was in the car with Charles while this was happening. Mm-hmm. So afterwards, Zulema asked Lori, well, what about JJ? He was with Charles. And she said JJ was not going to be alive very long, that he had another mission. And if he died during that, it was okay. My problem is this. Melanie Gibb and Zulema should have went to the cops, if nothing else, after Charles was murdered, knowing she's already referring to Tylee by another name. We get into that later. And then telling Zulema, JJ's not going to be alive very long. It makes you mad reading this stuff because you see there were 50 opportunities from January until these kids were murdered and Tammy was murdered to step in and put a stop to all this.
Yeah.
Go tell authorities what you know.
Yep. But then you think, would they have believed him?
I mean, it seemed to me the cops really didn't take Charles seriously anytime we saw him on body cam.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
because Lori painted it, she played the game.
Right.
She played the distraught, he's abusive. I mean, I watched some of her her interview, and she's painting him to be this abusive, yelling, abusive guy. that we
Right.
all know he wasn't.
Mhm.
But she's painting that picture to get them on her side, and that's what she did every time.
And like she told Melanie Gibb, like we just said, I know how to handle the police.
Yeah.
So you really do get a sense reading through I'm on 700 of 1,200 pages. On one hand, you look at it and it's sad to say, but Charles really didn't have a chance. He had done everything he could. And then when one zombie was cast out of Charles, Chad called, another one's in there. He never, without her family support, he was fighting all of these lunatics.
Yeah. Yep. So you are when Melanie left. That's where you are, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're all right. I didn't know if you got lost. I was making sure.
That's you.
That's not me. That's you, ain't it?
Okay.
Oh, no, it is me. It is me. When Melanie left, she called Chad and asked where Lori was. She said Chad acted clueless and didn't know what she was talking about. He is clueless. Melanie said Lori wasn't supposed to tell anyone about her and Chad, but clearly she did to her. After talking to Chad, Lori calls her. She said she got a new phone because Charles took hers. While leaving Lori, she saw Jason Mao pulled over on the side of the road, and that was by coincidence.
Yeah, right.
We've all said, yeah, right. She pulled over and told Jason about Charles taking Lori's purse, and Jason informed her to go to the police. Melanie said she knew Julie, and that's redacted.
Yeah, and there's two Julies in this whole mess. One gets out very early on, but I didn't want to guess which one it was. But it does involve dragons, so maybe it is Julie Rowe.
It's probably, yeah. Melanie said she knew Julie, redacted. When asked about her, she said Julie was into healing and was a friend of Zulima's. When asked about participating in any prayer circles, she said there was one with her boyfriend, David, Melanie Pulowski, Alex, Julie, Chad, and Lori. This was after Charles had been murdered. Chad brought out a seer stone, but she didn't know the importance of that. You looked it up, right?
Yeah, they're interpreter stones, and they can be used to translate and receive revelations. I need a seer stone.
I need a rock. The investigator asked if she remembered any talk of a dragon, and she recalls Julie Rowe talking about a dragon. When asked about the purpose of the prayer circle, Melanie didn't know.
I'm going to tell you, we know Chad compared himself to Harry Potter. If you know the Harry Potter series, there are dragons, they're shooting fire at people, your wand lights up to a bright light. I'm telling you,
he just
like a B-rated version of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, he just copied stuff. It was something else that came out that where he wrote. It was in that stuff you read. And it was somebody on our page said that comes from something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The erotica, it comes from some movie, like the opening, not the erotica, because I think it's maybe a religious movie.
Yeah.
But some of the quotes in there.
Yes. Was
he
exactly
just ripped off of somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. He ain't no writer. He's
not.
He steals stuff.
Well, I tweeted out the other day, by the way, I just thought of this. They were using this website called Smule. It's SMULE to share music. And so 3 of the songs that Lori sent to Chad was I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas. And we have fun with that on Twitter because it says she's got me feeling like Mr. Roboto. So we were putting little robot gifs. And then Let's Make Love by Faith Hill. And I Dreamed a Dream from Les Mis.
They should not. They shouldn't even know.
So Melanie Gibb is asked how well she knows Zulema, and she said they were friends, and she acknowledged that Zulema thought she can control the elements and cause earthquakes. That was only because Chad told her she could. And then Zulema stopped communicating with Melanie when she found out Melanie was talking to the police, and I'm sure this is when things heated up. She said Alex and Zulema started to get serious with each other in the summer of 2019. And she also knew that Chad and Lori had been married in another life, and they were part of the 144,000 who were supposed to move to Idaho and get married. And she said that Zulema and Lori would argue about this for some reason. So Melanie said she was friends with Alex and would occasionally call him. And when asked about his dedication to Lori, Melanie said that the incident with Joe Ryan where Alex tased him was a good example that he was protective of her and he didn't care if he went to jail for her. Now, we later learned that Chad tells Alex this is his first time on Earth and that he was sent here only to be Lori's guardian and protector on this Earth. But Alex bought into all this. I mean, hook, line, and sinker.
Yep.
He was 100% convinced that zombies were real. So I know a lot of times we say we don't know for sure who killed the kids, but I really do kind of think maybe it was mainly him, because if he thought you could do anything on this earth you wanted and then repent without any penalty, then it's just not a far fetch. These poor people, man.
Yeah, it was mind control.
Oh, yeah.
They convinced him of all this stuff, and he truly believed it. If you remember somewhere when Melanie Gibb called him, he said, "I 100% believe it." 100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when investigators were asking about the system of belief, she said in the beginning, Alex was a nobody and he had only been on Earth once. And as the doctrine progressed, Chad would tell Alex he was already exalted and he was only on this Earth for Lori. So apparently, if you've been exalted, you can be sent to Earth for special missions. And they told him he was the angel responsible for stopping Laman and Lemuel from killing Nephi. And Alex took this on as his identity. And he was convinced his job was to protect Lori. Can I just say, you're mute. Talk again.
I'm not muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not muted. It's Chad's way of getting Alex to do his dirty work.
For sure. And if you guys think I didn't YouTube the pronunciation for those two, I did.
We were bad on the last episode.
Oh,
it's just a southern pronunciation. We have our own dictionary.
Exactly.
We have our own
banjo down here, y'all.
Yeah, I just said ain't a while ago. I don't know if y'all caught that, but
yeah, that's my mom's favorite word, ain't.
Ain't.
So Melanie said the last time she saw Alex, she told him not to buy into the whole zombie thing. And she said Zulema was questioning it, but Alex, 100%, you weren't going to change his mind. It wasn't real. And then when Melanie was asked about this blessing that Chad gave Alex, she said the blessing is supposed to be given by a state patriarch who's called by God. And the blessing is about that particular person's life, their gifts, the things you want to happen that would happen in your future if you're obedient. And obviously Chad wasn't authorized to give that blessing, and Lori was giving them to Tylee as well.
Yeah. They just did what they wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
They made it up as they went. So around this time, Alex and Zulema got married, and if you remember, Ian and Melanie Pulowski did too. Melanie saw Alex and Zulema in Arizona, and Alex told her that Chad had given him such a beautiful blessing, and he cried like a baby. A recording was played for Melanie, and she recognized Lori and Chad's voices.
Mm-hmm.
When asked who she put at the core of the belief system, she said Chad and Lori considered themselves the head of the group. The group had no particular name, but they thought their mission was to collect the $144,000 for the final days. Also part of the group was Serena, Christina, and Nicole.
Yeah, we're going to have their interviews with police soon, but these are kind of the three that checked out.
Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah.
Serena was kicked out because, according to Lori, she called Chad too much. It became dark. Here we go. Here we go.
That's some high school stuff right there.
Yeah. I don't like you. You call my boyfriend too much. Christina became suspicious of Lori and Chad's relationship and left the group. Nicole was friends with Christina and left when she did. So Melanie said Lori took instruction from Chad and would go to Chad for confirmation about beliefs and for revelations. Lori also relied on Chad for the light and dark scales. The only other members of the immediate group were herself, Melanie Pulowski, Zulema, Alex, and Julie Rowe. When they asked her about AVAL, she said she is familiar with it, but it is only an online forum.
So Lori created an email account and she used the name Karen Walker. And this email was sent to Chad and it was like, hey, we're doing a youth summit here in Arizona. Can you please, or no, it was in Austin, Texas. And she said, it was this fake email. It was just a chance to get together. And so they asked Melanie Gibb about the name Karen Walker and she didn't know anything about it. And she said there was no conference. So it was just a little meetup.
Yep.
So when they asked Melanie Gibb what it meant to be like Nephi, when Lori said it would be like a Nephi and Laban ending, she said it was discussed by Lori and Alex before Charles was murdered. And what that means is in the Book of Mormon, there's a story of getting plates from Laban, and they asked for the plates 3 times and they weren't turned over. So the spirit moved upon Nephi and he was asked to cut the head off Laban, and he did. So you see, it says he then dressed in Laban's clothing and was able to get those plates. Melanie said Laban was a horrible and wicked man. And she said, looking back, this probably meant that Charles's life would have to be sacrificed. And she also felt that they felt that Charles was already gone and Alex would be killing Hiplos. So, yeah. Iplos. I just want to say it with a British accent. Iplos. But it's really, man, I mean, I don't want to say Lori or Chad or Alex are the main person, but it really seems to me like Chad, as I've read through this, I think he had these sick visions in his head and he found a bunch of gullible idiots that said, oh, wow. Yeah, I can shoot fire with my mind and I can cause earthquakes. And I mean, it's really crazy. We've always said that we know Lori was never a good mother after we read the documents of what she put Joe Ryan through. And we always heard in the beginning from the family, well, she was a great mom. Something switched off in her brain in a big, big way.
Yeah.
And it only became about Chad and their mission, as you call it. A lot of people thought maybe the kids were murdered for money, and maybe it was convenience too. But I do think in her mind, she did have some of this religious stuff.
My thing with Zulema and all that, how do you confirm that you can conjure up a earthquake?
You know what's funny? We talked about this Friday night on the live online crime. Kathy said shortly after they were arrested, COVID hit. Right? You know, it was 2020 and COVID hit. And then there was an earthquake in Salt Lake City, and there's never any earthquakes in there. They don't have natural disasters there very often. And Kathy was like, please, God, don't tell me they're sitting in their cell enjoying this right now, Sam. We told you so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's my thing. Like,
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the religious stuff played in. I think Lori wanting to be with Chad played in. But it's really hard to tell. But at the end of the day, they hid everything and they covered their tracks. They knew what they were doing. They knew it was wrong. If you want to say your religious belief said we had to kill a zombie, well, then you parade that and say, oh, this person was a zombie. We did the earth a good thing. They lied and hid and ran. So it's kind of a 50-50 with me. I don't know which way to lean right now.
Like, I mean, Spider-Man, when he holds his hand out and shoots a web out, you can see it coming out. Well, if Zulema is saying, I'm going to call down fire, psh, psh, you don't see it.
No, it's in her mind.
Yeah,
dude, how cool would it be to be able to like conjure up some fire though?
Hey, I'll be roasting marshmallows.
I'm still waiting on my Hogwarts letter. I'm all into Harry Potter, even though Chad sort of ruined it for me.
Yeah, really.
He also ruined a couple of good songs for me too, because now all I hear is Lori sending this stuff to Chad and Mr. Roboto.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh man, they're so cheesy.
Yeah, it is cheesy.
You could tell he wasn't experienced with anybody other than Tammy. Let's put it that way, because I don't care who you are. I don't care if you look like George Clooney. If you send me that stuff, I'm going to say bye.
Bye,
So
Felicia.
cheesy.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's all we got for Melanie Gibb. Next time we're going to do Zulema's police interview, there's a lot more in hers, really. It's as if it couldn't get worse. It does.
Yep.
And then we're going to go through all of these police interviews, and then we're going to hop back into that timeline because I'm finding things to stick in there that are important. And what I found is going through dates, you may get weighed down, but now we got, I think maybe to July on the last episode, we got to go back. I found out more stuff. So I'm trying to get through all this stuff before we really get back into those dates so that we're not jumping back and forth, but it's a lot of work.
Yep.
And we're getting there. So we appreciate you guys. Welcome to all our new listeners. We've got a bunch of new listeners lately. So we want to say welcome, and we have fun and we try to keep it fact-based. And sometimes we get a little goofy, but we just want to make sure we're putting the facts out there and never doing anything to hinder any cases or offending anybody who is dealing with the personal loss of these beautiful people. So glad to have you. All right, guys, we will see you next time. Have a good night. I'm going to bed.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.